last stand on a stage and speak as if your wealth, your worth, and your impact were completely non-negotiable? Seriously, I want you to take a moment with that. Even close your eyes and take a breath. Not the talk where you played it safe, not the one where you delivered value, got the applause, and then softened or sped up because you didn't want to seem too salesy. Not the version of you that walked onto the stage already apologizing in your energy, in your language, in the way that you held your body for taking up space. The version of you that walked on knowing that what you do changes lives. That the wealth that you're building is not separate from the impact that you're creating. It is the direct evidence of it, that the room in front of you deserved your fullest, most unapologetic truth, and that you gave it to them. When was the last time that this was you? If you've had to even think about it, even for a second, this podcast was made for you. So I am Laura Beddoe-Collins, and this is Soul Speaks, and this is where we stop holding back. This podcast exists because this conversation is not happening at the level that it needs to be. We have an entire industry built around speaking. Coaching is using your voice. It's guiding people to see their shadows. And your voice has never been more important than it is now with everything that's going on in the world. Soul Speaks is centered around getting founders onto stages, onto podcasts, helping them craft their stories, teaching them how to deliver with presence and conviction. And we also look at the frameworks, the scripts, the closing techniques, the psychological triggers, the conversion strategies that the world needs to create real results. I'm asking the question on this podcast that actually matters. How do you weave sales psychology into your voice, into your story, into the way that you hold a room so that by the time that you make the ask, the room is already leaning in, ready to say yes? How do you do that at scale in front of 100 people, 1,000 people, an audience that has never met you and has 60 minutes or less to decide whether they trust you enough to invest? That is this show. Let me give you the framework this show is built around. There is a reason that some speakers walk off a stage with a room full of buyers and others walk off with a standing ovation and 0 conversions. I've seen it all. It is not charisma. It is definitely not the quality of your slides. It is not even how good the offer is. We've all been there, right? We've been at events where we've seen speakers and they're terrible. It is whether or not they understand how buying decisions are made in a group setting and the psychology of whether or not they're willing to hold their worth at full volume through every single stage of that process. Here is what the psychology tells us. When a person is sitting in a room with other people, their individual decision making is profoundly shaped by what they perceive the group is feeling. Social proof does not just live in testimonials, it happens in real time in the room that you are speaking. The energy of the audience is the live data. People are reading the room as much as they are listening to you, which means it's your job as a speaker not to persuade one person at a time. It is your job to shape the emotional and psychological experience of the entire room or audience so that saying yes feels not just possible, but inevitable. You do that through story, not storytelling for emotion's sake, but the story that is designed to move someone through every stage of a buying decision without them ever feeling sold to. You do that through the way you hold your worth at the moment of the ask. So you're standing in your power, because here's what happens, and I see it constantly. A founder delivers a brilliant talk, they build a genuine connection, genuine desire, genuine momentum in the room, and then they get to the close and they flinch. Their voice drops or their voice speeds up, their energy shifts, they start qualifying the offer, softening the number, and apologizing in their energy when it comes to the ask. And the room feels it, and the certainty breaks, and the sale walks out the door. It is costing founders an extraordinary amount of money every single time that they get on stage or a podcast or speaking anywhere on social media. So why do we flinch? I believe that we have been conditioned to. We've been taught, particularly in the heart-led, values-driven, conscious business space, that selling is somehow at odds with serving. That wanting wealth is at odds with having integrity. That standing on a stage in front of a room full of people and saying, this is what I do, this is what it costs, and this is what changes when you say yes, is somehow arrogant, it's pushy, and it's not the done thing. Don't talk about money, it's crass. Don't talk about your own success too loudly. You'll seem like you're showing off. Don't be too ambitious, it makes people feel uncomfortable. We've heard it all, right? Specifically for women. And we've absorbed every single one of those messages so completely that they now live in our nervous system. And we believe that it's our story. And they show up as a dropped voice at the close, as a discounted offer before anyone has questioned the price, as a brilliant talk that never becomes a brilliant business. And I refuse categorically to accept that. And this podcast gives you the permission to stand in your power. Because here is the truth. I want you to really hear this. When you stand on a stage and you hold back your full worth and potential, you're not protecting your audience and you're not being humble or thoughtful or even considered. You're actually doing a disservice to the person in the room who genuinely needed what you do to hear your story in the way that you do it and get the invitation that you deliver. Shrinking yourself down does not serve your audience. It serves the conditioning that was never yours to carry in the first place. Unapologetic wealth is the decision to put the conditioning down on stage, in the close, in the number that you say out loud, in the way that you speak about what you have built and what you're here to create. That decision, made fully held, consistently changes everything. So, as I already mentioned at the beginning, I am Laura Beddoe-Collins and I have 20 years in sales, marketing, PR and events. And I am a trained solution-focused psychotherapist and hypnotherapist. I have built a beautiful community of heart-led founders, been featured in many publications, and that is because of the system that I teach. And I have created the Soul Speaks methodology of the sales from the stage system that has helped hundreds of founders walk onto bigger stages, own their worth completely, and close in rooms that they previously would have walked away from empty-handed. I understand the human mind, and because of my solution-focused psychotherapy background, I understand the human mind and I understand what happens in a room when a speaker is operating at their full capacity and what is lost when they're not. And on this podcast, you are going to get to witness world-class leaders, founders already generating serious wealth, already making a massive impact, and they're operating at a level where their ripple extends far beyond any single room that they've ever stood in. These are not beginner conversations. This is what it looks like at the top. We're going to be real, raw, and completely unfiltered. And we're going to talk about the mechanics of the stage sales, as well as life in general. We're going to be looking at the psychological architecture of speaking, running our own businesses, and we're going to be going in deep. And They're going to be sharing their story with you of what goes on behind the scenes, behind the polished sales pitch or presentation that you see. And we're going to talk about strategy, and we're going to talk about soul, because the leaders that I admire the most are the most commercially sharp and deeply purposeful leaders. And I refuse to pretend those two things are in conflict. We're going to go behind the scenes on the wealth, what it actually looks like to build at this level, the pivots, the hard seasons, the versions of success that feels different from the inside than what it looks like from the outside. What wealth genuinely means to these leaders, the freedom it creates, the legacy that it builds, and the impact that it multiplies. And we're going to celebrate the ripple on this show, because every single leader on this show is not just building their own success, they're becoming a model, a standard, a proof of concept for everyone watching. And they want to smash through that glass ceiling, and they want to pull you up just like I do. If you are a founder who is ready to be part of these conversations, whether you want to listen into the podcast or whether you want to be a guest, I love hearing from you, genuinely from my heart. And I am looking for leaders who are making a real impact, generating real wealth, and who are ready to talk about it honestly, who understand that their voice is their most powerful sales instrument, and who want to go deeper on how to use it and scale. I want to speak to you if you're done with the polished surface level version of success. We're bored of that, right? And you are ready to pull back the curtain on what it actually takes. And I'm going to take you along for the ride on what it takes for me too. It wasn't that long ago that this life that I've built it was something that I couldn't even imagine. So I'd like you to tell me what you're building, who you are serving, and what wealth means to you. But beyond the number, tell me the conversation that you've been wanting to have that no one has given you the space to have yet. This is that space. Before I go, I want to leave you with something to sit with. Every single time that you walk onto a stage, film some content for social media, or speak on a podcast in your full truth, unapologetically, without shrinking down, softening the clothes, or making yourself smaller than you are, that is how you create real results. Like the person in the front row who has been playing small in their own business. They watch you hold your worth and they think to themselves, I'm allowed to do that too. Or the client who buys from you that day that goes back to their life or their business, to their own audience and their own sales conversations, and they show up differently just because you decided to show up fully in the presence of someone who modeled what it looks like to be completely non-negotiable about their value. Your team sees it, your family sees it. That is the ripple. And that is how one person creates unapologetic wealth in the world around them. Not just financial freedom, though, yes, absolutely that, but a standard, a permission, a living demonstration that ambition and integrity are not opposites, that wealth and impact are not in conflict, that you do not have to choose between being fully yourself and building something extraordinary. You are not just building a business when you lead with your voice unapologetically. You are building the proof that is possible. So here is the question I want you to carry with you after this episode. Where are you still playing small and holding back? I've been Laura Beddoe-Collins, and this is Soul Speaks Unapologetic Wealth. Subscribe, share this with the founder who needs to hear it, and I will see you in the next episode.